we're going to start today, we're going to start by kind of filling in details of how to do this. First thing I want to say is that it's a process. It's not like you just start from step one and you move forward and finish up, but rather it's a cycle that you have to do several times before the piano's properly regulated. Okay, it's kind of like tuning. For those of you that have done any tuning, that you can't just, if a piano is, let's say we just restrung it and the strings are way out, they have nothing to do with their actual pitch. You can't just start at note 1 and tune it up to pitch and then go to note 2, tune it up to pitch. Why is that? It'll go flat, right? The tension change is so significant that it affects the other notes. It's such a significant change in tension that it throws the previous notes out of tune. So you actually have to do, when it's a freshly strung piano, you actually have to do several pitch raises, and then you get it kind of in the vicinity, and then you do your tuning. It's the same thing with action regulation, where if your action basically has to be more or less regulated before you can regulate it. So that's why it's a cycle or a circle, where you just kind of go around and around until you've got it. Because every change that you make, with some exceptions, like let off, with basically every change that you make has influence on the others. Okay? So today we're going to be fairly quick. We're just going to talk about the 3 main things that you have to have. This is not the aftertouch let off, dip and blow. This is another 3 things that you have to have. Be sure that you have before you start regulating. Otherwise, you're not even going to be able to go through the cycle. And by cycle, I mean every time you hit the key, the whole action is going through a cycle. So it won't even go through that if you don't have 3 things. Spring strength. Okay, let's start there. All right, spring strength. It's this spring, right? Well, usually there's 2 of them, but on this one, the spring serves 2 purposes. So it's spring. What she's talking about is the strength of this repetition lever. You have to have plenty of spring strength. Right now there is plenty, and I know that because I'm getting that hammer into check right there, where the tail meets the back check, and then if I just release it ever so slowly, that hammer pops up. And that's the repetition lever, right? Because when it's in check, that repetition lever is coiled, the spring is coiled, pushing the repetition lever up, but it can't push it up because it's locked there. So if I release that connection, then the repetition lever can push up to the drop screw. Okay, there's the drop screw. So right now, can all of you see that there's space between, see I can put the screwdriver in there, there's space between this little piece of leather at the end of the repetition lever and the bottom of the drop screw. Okay, if there wasn't space there, I wouldn't be able to slide my thing under, and the only reason that there's that space is because this knuckle is pushing the repetition lever down because of this locked connection here. Okay, so what's going to happen if I release that connection? It's going to pop up. Why?
Because the spring is strong enough to push it up.
Right. It pushes up on the repetition lever, which pushes up on the knuckle. And how high does it go? Where does the repetition lever stop?
At the drop screw.
At the drop screw. There it is. You can see exactly what happened. The repetition lever now is stopped at the drop screw. I can no longer put that under. We've got the hammer up. Okay, now let's experiment by, I don't know if we can. It's already kind of maxed up on this one. Maybe I can weaken the spring here. So on some older pianos, not all, but on some of them, it's still pretty strong. That spring will be too weak. So what do you predict is gonna happen if I'm able to weaken this spring enough?
And the hammer won't go back up
Why not?
because there's not enough force on the spring to push everything.
Okay. And then what happens if the hammer doesn't go back up because the repetition lever isn't strong enough because that spring is too weak? What's gonna happen then?
The jack won't get in.
Yes, that's it. That's the key. The jack can't get back under. So it can't go through its cycle. So let's try that. See if, well, maybe it's still strong enough. Something that so it is too weak, but it's still slightly strong enough because when I release this connection here, it stays there. But it is strong enough still that, watch the jack, keep your eye on the jack there. It's just slightly strong enough that jack did get back under. So it's going to repeat. See if I can, I mean, it's going to be kind of anticlimactic. It's not that big a deal to see. It's just that the thing starts to misfire. It's basically all you see. My last try. Okay, I give up. Can't weaken it enough. But yes, what you guys said is correct. So, okay, let's talk about drop. So I'm gonna remove drop. Why do we have to have plenty of drop in order to even get started? That's what we're talking about today, right? The 3 things you need plenty of before you can even get started, because you can't see let off otherwise. So let's talk about let off. Okay. So if you're trying to set your let off, right, which is done at this let off button, I think this one I can move with my fingers. Okay, if I turn this all the way down, this is really far down, right? I just turned that let off button super, super close. So what do we predict is gonna happen? The hammer should let off way too early. But in this scenario, we don't have enough drop. So let's watch what happens. Okay, so right there, that jack toe is hitting the let off button, but watch, it keeps rising up to the string. Why is that?
Because you need to tighten that.
Yeah, because remember there are 2 components that are lifting that hammer to the string. The jack is out of the way, but the repetition lever is the other component because there's no drop. And remember, the drop screw is essentially the let off button for the repetition lever. That's what it does. And so it keeps going up, so we can't set our let off. So in order to set our let off, we have to get the drop completely out of the way. And then we set the drop according to the let off, not vice versa. Okay, I'll say it again. You have to set the drop according to the let off after your let off is set. Okay, so now I'm going to give it, and really it doesn't matter exactly how much drop. So what I'll often do before I start to regulate, and it depends on the piano. Some of them the drop screw is basically there, and we don't have to worry about it. We can just start regulating, but I do check all of these things to make sure I've got plenty of spring strength, plenty of drop, and if there's not plenty of drop, I'll just go through all of the drop screws and I'll just turn them down a lot. Like I'll give them a full rotation or sometimes even more. It doesn't matter, as long as it's a lot, it's fine. It's just getting that repetition out of the way. Okay, so right there, that repetition lever is out of the way. You can see it's hitting that. And wait, why is it not letting? Okay, so now we've got plenty of drop. Now I'm going to raise that up to where it's going to be closer to the string. There we go. So yeah, there's about our 1/8 inch let off distance. And then based on that, we can set our drop, which we'll do later. Okay, and what's the third thing that we need plenty of?
Dip.
Dip, right. So do that. So I know I can quickly do it easily. So let's just simulate as if there's, I just put in a ton of punchings there. Okay, so it's never gonna look like that, right? Yeah, it hurts that you're, to see cardboard on top. But, let's see what happens. Okay, so there's not plenty of dip. And why is that a problem?
Because the hammer doesn't go close enough to the string.
Yeah, you just don't have
You
enough.
have to hit the key really hard to get it to actually touch the string.
Don't have room for a full cycle.
Yeah, exactly. It's the key that's the food, right? The key is giving the hammer energy. And so if there's not enough food, it can't go through the whole cycle. So here again, it doesn't matter how much we have. So what I like to do is I just like to take this punching out. So plenty of dip. We have plenty of drop. And plenty of spring strength. Okay. There is, let's see. So now we can at least get started. Okay, watch how much drop there is. That's a lot of drop right there. I'll do that again. It should be just a little tiny wink, right? 1/16 of an inch or something. And right now the amount of drop, I'm referring to how much the hammer falls, right there. What is that, like, I don't know, 1/2 inch or something? And there should be just a tiny fraction of that. And that's good, we have plenty. And then how much dip do we have? We have way more than we need. It's probably, again, it's probably about 1/2 inch of dip. That's way more than it's engineered to need. Spring strength. There's actually so much spring strength that it's not even making this connection there. See if I can loosen that up a little bit. So that's still plenty, but not like a gorilla. Okay, so that's a very disrespectful rise up. Okay, so that's, any questions? Does everybody understand what you need plenty of before you can even start? Okay, tomorrow we'll start getting into the actual, some of the steps to actually do the regulation. All right. Thanks, guys.